Global War 36 enthusiast here with the conclusion of Operation Live and Let Die. It is the end of turn 17, and Fighting Irish Panzer J and I have agreed to just assume that the variable die roll ended up as a 1 or a 2, and the game ended. I'm still waiting for Fighting Irish's turn, but if I were him, I would take my air transport and drop in Buryatia, and then land my air transport up in Chukotka. That way, you take 1 point off of Russia for home territory being captured. Maybe that's not what Fighting Irish will do, but I just wanted to try to get a guesstimate of what the victory points are at the end of the game. The Allied completed objectives are this is for the USA, Pacific Supremacy for 1 point, and maintaining the empire for 1 point. For Great Britain, they have contained communism for 1 point and maintained the empire for 1 point. France has surrendered, so they score a total of 0 victory points. ANZAC, I'm not sure about ANZAC because they don't have New Zealand, so yep, they don't score a point. FEC, KMT don't score a point, so that's 4 points that they've taken in objectives. They have 3 objective cities: Washington D.C., London, and Sydney. That gets them up to 7. But Great Britain is missing 4 home country territories, so that subtracts that. So I believe they have a total of 3. I'm not sure about that because Great Britain only scored 3 points, 1 for London, 1 for containing communism, and 1 for maintaining the empire. So could they actually lose 1 more? They either have 3 or 4 victory points. Let me know in the comments below if you think that London could actually contribute negative, or if Great Britain could contribute a negative score of -1. Axis objectives for Germany: Lebensraum, 3 points. Germany-Spanish Civil War, 1 point. Gain resources, 1 point. So that's 5 for Germany. And then for Italy, they have expand the empire for 2 points and dominance for 1 point. Japan has raw materials of 1 because of Java. And then objective cities, the Axis have Berlin, Rome, Tokyo, and Paris. So I have 13 minus the 1 for home country territory lost by Japan and Hokkaido. So I have a total of 12 victory points for the Axis. Comintern has buffer zone for 1, worldwide communism for 11, Eastern security for 1, ice-free port for 1. I did not complete technological superiority. Just to see what would have happened, I did do a PBE hypothetical roll for turn 18, and I would have developed it. So I actually would have made that point if the game went 1 more turn. And then inflame the revolution for CCP for 2 points. I have 3 objective cities: Moscow, Nanking, and Calcutta. But I've lost 1 point for home country of the USSR that's taken. And then I'm not sure how many points to lose for the CCP. I know I lose 1 for Peking, but do I also lose 1 for Rihe and Korea? So that could be 3 points. And again, this is a similar situation to Great Britain. Could the CCP... Well, that wouldn't be a negative number of points because I'd be losing 3 points for home country territory that is not held. Although, now I'm wondering about Russia. I'm not sure. Does that say that it's held by enemy possession? Okay, so it's only 3 points. I get 1 point for Nanking and 2 points with the CCP for inflame the revolution, so I'm really not going down 0. So if the 2 Manchurian territories count against the CCP, then I would have a total score of 15. So it was a pretty close game. If I've got the scores right, that I have 15, the Axis have 12, and the Allies have 3 or 4. Okay, let's talk about the greatest moves in this game. I would say the most impressive player in this game was Fighting Irish. Tactically brilliant, but even more than that was his personal resilience in the face of tremendous adversity. He never stopped fighting. He put up a tremendous fight, 1v2. Really, America truly was the arsenal of democracy, and Fighting Irish was just a very persistent foe, and I salute him. I really respect that resilience. I thought that the most important, greatest move of the whole game was when Fighting Irish took his Commonwealth fleet and declared war on Japan. It was like the reverse of what usually happens, where Japan does its surprise attack. Fighting Irish saw an opportunity to basically have Japan lose the game. I think it was on turn 6. Japan never recovered from that attack by Fighting Irish. He seized the moment, and it was absolutely brilliant. Really aggressive. I thought, oh my God, what's going on here? They're gonna get themselves in a bad pickle. But actually, he saw that he could win the game, or that he could make Japan lose the game, is a better way of putting it, and made a really, really good attack. I thought also the second best move, in my opinion, was this Midlands scramble, where he had 3 fighters in the British Midlands, and Panzer J was going to invade, so he was coming into the C zone and attacking 2 different places, and by having his planes there at the air base, he could threaten to scramble to the C zone, or he could fight in British Midlands, or he could fight, I forget if the other territory was Northern England. And it really spread Panzer J's forces out, because he didn't know, since scrambling occurs after the attacking player has declared their combat moves, it gives the defender an opportunity to look at where the attacking player is weakest, which in this case was his navy. Panzer J's navy was the most vulnerable, and that's where he sent his fighters to attack. So that I really thought, wow, that's something I need to learn for the future. That was a really good move. And so the next thing I thought that was really a great move was Panzer J's use of the Luftwaffe to take over England. Once he got that toehold in northern England, and moved all those planes over, because we were playing with this option of Rule 10.2, where you can reinforce captured bases. So he was able to take northern England and then swoop over this massive number of planes. Just off the top of my head, I feel like it was 13 fighters. So Panzer J had just made this incredible commitment of air power, and all he needed to do was get a toehold over there. Then he had this massive number of air transports that he kept. Every turn he'd add another air transport or two, and then he was bringing over massive numbers of troops, and it became hopeless for Fighting Irish to ever extract him from English soil. I have to compliment Fighting Irish, though. I mean, he laid down a fortification and made a massive commitment of troops. I think, like, right now, there are 40... no, that's 30. Sorry, there are 30 infantry in London. It's a total stalemate. Panzer J cannot take London, but Fighting Irish can't knock Panzer J out of England. They both played really well. I didn't see it coming with the 13 planes moving over to that air base. Just as a side note, I don't think I would play with the reinforcement of captured bases, unless that was the Axis. It's really very useful for the Axis. I think later in the game it would be useful for the Allies, but just seeing what you're capable of with something like that, I'd probably, if I didn't know what country I was going to play, I'd probably not be in favor of that particular rule. Another great move by Fighting Irish was what I call the submarine turkey shoot in Sea Zone 50. He came in there when there were a bunch of submarines. He came in there, and I don't know if it was the best move for Panzer J to scramble his planes into that sea zone, because when he did that, it allowed all of Fighting Irish's ships to attack, whereas if he had just had the submarines bear one turn of the aerial assault, they could pair with the destroyers 1-to-1, but they wouldn't be Fighting Irish wouldn't have been able to use as other units. And after one turn, let's say that Panzer J loses 4 units or something, he could choose to have those units that got hit attack back before they died, but the rest of the subs could have all submerged. That was an interesting and important battle in the game. I have to salute, just in general, Fighting Irish's use of the Royal Navy. He used every single ship that they start with. This is all that they have left, is this little force of 1 battleship and 2 heavy cruisers. Everything else got utilized. There's 2 submarines here that the British have, but I think that is every British ship has gone to the bottom fighting fiercely, and he really extracted incredible utility out of every ship. It wasn't like he wasted any or was frivolous. He really was methodical and squeezed that Royal Navy for all it was worth. He made excellent use, admirable use of the Royal Navy. I thought that the purchase that Panzer J made when he bought, I think it was maybe 8 light cruisers, I remember, like, I stood up and my jaw really did drop. I was just totally like, whoa, he's going to go for the blockade. He's going to really commit. I think it was after, he did that after Fighting Irish purchased a bunch of anti-aircraft, which is really a smart move by Fighting Irish. He's got these 6 anti-aircraft here, back when Germany had the 15 fighters, or maybe he had 12 fighters and some tactical bomber. But boy, when you're facing 6 anti-aircraft, that's rolling at 3. Plus, they're in a fortification. That combination is evil. You put an anti-aircraft gun in a fortified spot, the anti-aircraft gun only fires on the first turn. Well, that fortification gives you the +2 on the first turn. So that's going to make your anti-aircraft roll at 5, almost 50-50 chance. And with 6 anti-aircraft guns, that means you've got 18 rolls at a 5. You know, that's going to come out to maybe 8 hits. You know, it's pretty impressive defense. But well, then that's when Panzer J said, okay, I'm going to shut him down, both for the economic advantages of having the blockade on London, but also because I'm going to move over to Navy. He's made a big commitment here with anti-aircraft guns. I'll switch, and then I'll bring my Luftwaffe down to northern Italy. Another brilliant move was that tactical flexibility with him moving his forces, seeing that this is a stalemate here in London. I don't need to worry about him attacking me. He built a fortification, Panzer J built a fortification himself in British Midlands. I'm going to bring these planes down to northern Italy and threaten the Mediterranean very effectively. Then there was a really nice Italian aerial assault when he attacked Tunisia with just planes to wipe out the French force that was in Tunisia. I didn't see that coming. He's willing to, Panzer J is willing to think outside the box and use expensive, make an expensive attack for strategic gains, especially at the end of the game. That made a lot of sense to me in hindsight, but I don't know if Fighting Irish saw that coming, but I certainly didn't. I thought that was a great move. I guess I'm really seeing Panzer J's commitment to air power. I'm thinking back now to the very beginning of the game when Italy sent at least two fighters to the Spanish nationals. That was a huge commitment, and that really broke my spirit as the Soviet player, saying, I can't compete. I'm sending 1 infantry per turn. He's already sent 3 fighters. You can see there's 4 fighters. The original fighter that the nationalists start with, and 3 more. He really made a commitment to air power this game. You can see the Italians end the game with 2, 4, 6 fighters, 2 tacticals, and the Germans have 7 fighters in northern Italy and 1 tactical. They have 1 fighter in western Germany and 4 fighters up in northern England. So just a huge number of aircraft by the Germans and Italians. The Japanese too, to a lesser extent. They had a lot less money this game. I really thought that the last German turn 17, where they captured the Free French capital with a massive aerial assault, Panzer J had left himself in a really nice position where he could have attacked down to East Egypt with his air armada, or he could have attacked northern Algeria. I don't think he could have gone. He couldn't go for Gibraltar, but by having this centralized location with a massive number of aircraft, especially at the end of the game, where he's willing to lose units to take strategic objectives. This was a really good attack because he could now take over these Free French territories, and there's nothing stopping him from doing that. He doesn't have to worry about the Americans over here. Really, the American difficulty right now is they don't have enough land units. I also thought bringing the Italians way over here to Iraq to pull the British forces out of the way did open him an opportunity for eastern Egypt if that's what he decided to do. So I just really have so much to say about the excellent play by my opponents, and notice that I don't have any brilliant plays listed on my part. I don't think there was really anything worth commenting on or noting. I did not have any brilliant tactical play that I remember. So blunders. That's where I'll start off with me first and foremost. The biggest blunder of any player in this whole game was me. I did not understand that if Russia declares war on Japan, that then if Germany declares war on Russia, I don't immediately jump up to my wartime economy. That's what I thought was going to happen. I thought the moment Germany declares war on me, I'll go to 46 per turn. But that's not how it works. If Russia declares war on anyone, then they have to just roll 1d12 at a time for their sleeping bear increases until they gradually get themselves up to 46. And it took me many, many turns to get up to 46. I was really in a bad spot declaring war on Japan. It was kind of a frivolous, impulsive thing. And yes, it did give me Manchuria, which let's look at. I didn't even have all of Manchuria. I had like 3 or 4 points in Manchuria that I was getting for that early attack. And so that was, I would never do that again. I remember when Madman Dan commented like, well, you're gonna have to wait to get your income up, 1d12 at a time. And I was like, wait, what? Well, no, when Germany declares war on me, I'll go up to 46. And that was a rude awakening. So beware of that. Don't use Operation Live and Let Die as your model for how to play Russia, for sure. Okay, now I'm going to talk about a blunder that I feel that Panzer J made, which is not declaring war on China. If you just let China alone CCP is going to become a major power. It's like a tumor. You have to excise it. You have to treat it, because if you just leave it alone and you don't pay attention to it, it's going to turn into this monster. And I think that he should have declared war. I think that time to declare war is sometime after which CCP has got a little bit of size. Maybe they've captured 1 or 2 warlords, maybe 3, but you want to declare and give enough of the other warlords over to KMT that KMT has a chance to kill CCP. That's why I might do it after 1 or 2 warlords have been recruited, because you want CCP to be small enough to entice KMT to attack them. If CCP is so big, KMT might just placate them and say, okay, look, let's just be peaceful. If KMT doesn't see a path by which they could actually eradicate CCP, they might not even go for it, especially with their attack weakness. CCP is going to get recruitment roles, which is an advantage that KMT doesn't have, and KMT has that attack weakness that if they roll a 10 or higher, they have to retreat with that particular unit. So KMT is in a bad spot. You might want to give them more territories. But I know that Panzer J really had a vision, a strategic vision before the game, and he didn't want to get distracted and put off and get dragged into China, because that wasn't what he had envisioned in the first place. But Panzer J, your key is flexibility. That's your signature strength. So I think you should embrace flexibility, because you're super good at it. And in future games, I would say, okay, I'm going to be flexible about China. I'm going to try to stay out of it and hope that CCP doesn't grow. But fighting Irish, doing this Hope gambit, if Panzer J had seen the threat of CCP, then he probably would have declared war, maybe when CCP was still kind of small, given all of those warlords to fighting Irish. So this Hope attack could have ended up being good for fighting Irish if Panzer J had declared war on China at some point. So I did not think that was good to just leave CCP alone, even though secretly I was like, yes, this is wonderful, please, just let me keep growing a little bit longer. So it worked out well for me, but I think in the future, I wouldn't advise Japan to leave China alone. Okay, now the last blunder or mistake, I think, was Panzer J, his attack on the Money Islands. If he had attacked 1 turn earlier, then I don't think Britain would. I actually don't think Britain could have declared war. If I'm remembering right, let me look this up on the fly. Sorry, you guys. While we're in, I need to look up his declarations of war. He has to reach his wartime income, and Japan declares war on a neutral is only +2. Yeah, so if he had done it 1 turn earlier, if he had attacked the Money Islands in January of 39 instead of July of 39, then Britain would not have had enough to get to wartime income. It does mess up his plans as far as the Netherlands, because then the Netherlands, he's not going to be able to capture that, and the Netherlands are going to go over to England. I don't know if they're aligned. No, because England isn't at war in January, so they'll just be controlled by England. But I think that if he had done that earlier, he would have been set. This attack couldn't have happened, and he would have been in the driver's seat and been in good shape. He was under the understanding that his carriers could carry the planes, say 3 spaces or 4 spaces. If the carrier's starting at a major port, it could move 4 spaces, and then the plane could fly another 2 spaces and still make it back to the carrier. And that forced him, because he didn't know that his planes don't work that way and they are limited to a range of 4, it forced him to kind of move his carriers around to catch the planes, and then that left him in a really vulnerable spot. So that was just like the old story about the for want of a nail the horseshoe didn't have its shoe, and for the one of the horse not having its shoe, it stumbled during the battle, and for the horse stumbling, the king fell, and when the king fell, the tide was turned. So these little things, like this one thing about the rules, not understanding that one rule about how carriers worked, completely lost Japan the game. Really painful lesson, and I think that it really helped. It'll help other people to see and remember how carriers work from this point forward. Okay, 5 rules. This is when I was really excited to play my first multiplayer game of Global War 36, and I knew I would learn so much. Because when you play by yourself, you do not have a full appreciation of the rules. It's only when other players point out, or other commenters, I'm finding out when you post videos, you learn a lot that way too. And that's the number one thing I wanted out of this experience, was to learn the game better. But what I didn't expect is that our game would provide clarity on the rules for other players to learn from. There were 5 rules that got updated in the frequently asked question list at HBG. Because of this game. So one of them was that multiple times during Operation Live and Let Die, players kept units on the place unit box instead of placing them on the board. So for example, USSR starts with 1 submarine and a destroyer in the place units box, and I kept them there for strategic flexibility. One of the neat things about Russia is that it can place units here in Sevastopol. It could place them here in Primorsky Krai. They could be placed all the way up there in Kola, or they could be placed in the Baltic Sea via Leningrad. So you have this more than, pretty much, yeah, I mean, the United States has tremendous flexibility too with the Atlantic and Pacific, but it's really a nice position with the Soviets to be able to look at all these different places you could put these units, and I thought, I'll just hold these in my back pocket and place them wherever I need them. Well, I'm not the only one who thought that way. Panzer J also wanted to purchase and hold units in the place units box for strategic flexibility. And there were rules that were in conflict with one another on this issue. On page 26 in the place units and collect income phase rules, it says, quote, put all nations' units from the place units box of the production chart onto the map. Well, that seems pretty conclusive. You gotta put them on the map. And furthering that, on page 47, 11.1 place units, says, quote, place all units that are in the place units box of the production chart onto the map. But Panzer J found Rule 27, 7.3 that says, quote, you may postpone the placement of units in the place units box if desired. And this conflict led to the fact being updated. Question, are you able to buy units and keep them in reserve in the place units box of the production chart to be placed in later turns? Answer, no, you must place them in the same turn if you're able to. Now, on my massive purchase turn with the Soviets, I was not able to place all my units because I purchased so many infantry that I literally couldn't place them at all my factories. My factory capacity was inundated, and I think it was 3 extra infantry that had to be placed on the next turn. I forgot to place them on the next turn, but I had to do that. And then I think that's the only time, because my militia, I did have enough space to be able to place my militia. Okay, the second FAQ update was that I recruited 2 militia as the CCP, and I placed them in different zones. And one of the commenters said, no, that's illegal. Look at page 48, 11.5, recruitment die roll for controlled minor power. Quote, on a result that is equal to or less than the number of land zones that controlled nation has, you either get 1 or 2 militia 1 or 2 militia to place in a land zone of that controlled nation. So that seemed pretty conclusive that you have to put it in 1, but the FAQ got updated. Can you place 2 militia from a successful recruitment roll in 2 different land zones? Yes, you can. Fighting Irish wanted to attack the CCP with the KMT, and in the same turn follow that attack with attack for the US by the USA. I think it might have been in Kwaichow or Yunnan. I can't remember, one of those two, where they attacked first with the KMT and then in the same turn followed on with a sequential attack by the USA. On page 26, 6.1 National Order, it says, USSR and CCP also share a turn, but may not attack together until CCP has evolved into a major power. US and KMT also share a turn, but may not attack together until KMT has evolved to a major power. So they updated the FAQ. Can two nations that share turns attack the same land zone if they are forbidden to attack together per 6.1? For example, USA and minor power KMT. And the answer was no. You can't do that kind of sequential attack. Fighting Irish sent Lend-Lease to the Free French capital in northern Algeria, but he sent it through two sea zones that had enemy submarines present. So there was disagreement about whether or not the Lend-Lease delivery faces one interdiction rule for all for all sea zones that it faces, or does it face one rule for each sea zone that has an enemy submarine or has interdiction. So the FAQ was updated. If Lend-Lease delivery passes through, this is an example, 3 sea zones, which each contain submarines of a nation at war with ascending power, how many times do you roll for interdiction? And the answer was 3, regardless of the number of submarines in each zone. Finally, the 5th question was, there was discussion in Operation Live and Let Die about whether or not KMT loses their IPP to the bank when Nanking gets captured. You know, Nanking has the KMT rondelle on it, but the KMT is a minor power. People were wondering about this, so the FAQ was updated with a question, do CCP or KMT have a capital? For example, are they able to lose their IPP to the bank if captured? And the answer was no. So then there's additional rules that I just learned that I want to pass along to other people. If the Soviets declare war, they will not get their Sleeping Bear adjacency rolls because their peacetime income increases. So, you know, if Germany attacks eastern Poland or Lubelski, Russia is not going to get those adjacency extra rolls for that if they're already at war. Another reason not to declare war on Japan. Even though CCP is at war with KMT, it can only receive its wartime bonus for adjacency to the USSR if it is at war with a major power, and KMT, until it's evolved, is not a major power, of course. You may not scramble aircraft to defend a territory that has no other defending units. You need to have at least one unit there if you want to scramble aircraft into that battle. When Lend-Leasing, the delivery stops in the first land zone in the receiving nation's home country. I thought I could send Lend-Lease right into Paris, but nope, the moment it hit Normandy, that Lend-Lease stops. When the CCP purchases artillery due to adjacency to the USSR, they have to place the artillery in a land zone that was adjacent to Soviet-possessed territory during the production phase. So if the CCP has Sinkang and it's adjacent to Kazakhstan, Turkestan, when they purchase at the beginning of turn, they say, okay, I'm purchasing artillery here in Sinkang. They have to purchase it at in the territory that is adjacent. Convoy rating maximums are per calendar turn, not from the end of one nation's turn to the start of that same nation's next turn. That's how I had thought it worked, not reading the rules carefully enough that I thought, okay, once Britain's turn ends, then we keep track of all the IPPs that are done to Britain until it starts its next turn, and then we start tracking over again. Nope. You track from the start of the calendar year to the end of the calendar year, and the end of the calendar year is when you should remove those dice if that's what you use as damage trackers, you know, kind of keeping track of the IPP that have been lost. You remove those at the end of the calendar term. Okay, target selection for submarines is every round, and it is not negated by destroyers. It's the first round first strike that you get for submarines that gets negated by destroyers. Germany, and I want to mention one more thing about that. So I had thought that you might need to have enough destroyers that once the combat starts, you can still use them to defeat the submarine's target selection. That was my misunderstanding from my solo games. But no, all you need is one destroyer at the very start of the battle, and after that first round, you don't need destroyers anymore. You can definitely take them as your cannon fodder. Although maybe later in the turn, some other power will attack you, and you'll wish you had at least one destroyer. Germany and USSR can move through the Danish Straits if Denmark is neutral. Nations cannot move through the Turkish Straits if they are at war with a major power. Advanced technology units must be built in home country. If the Allies or Comintern declare war on a minor country, the sphere of influence assignment from page 22, table 4.3, trumps the control and alignment notes from that same table. It's interesting that if you look at table 4.3, the top is the control and alignment discussion, and then the bottom is assignment. And I erroneously thought that meant, okay, you first go through whether it's controlled or aligned, and then you go down to the assignment. But actually, it's the other way around. First, you just determine who is this country aligned, or I shouldn't use the word aligned, who is it going to get assigned to? And then you have to decide whether it's going to be controlled or aligned with that particular country. And so the rules aren't quite worded correctly, because it says in Table 4.3, nations come under Axis control if they are attacked by the Allies or USSR, but the attacker, the Allies or USSR, is not at war with the Axis. That's not strictly true. It should end, instead of not at war with the Axis, it should say not at war with the Axis power assigned below. That's what it should really say. So at the time that the Soviets declared war on Finland, they were at war with Japan, but they were at peace with Germany. I thought that meant that Finland would align, because of that phrase, that they're aligned with a country that's not at war with the Axis. I was at war with an Axis power, Japan, you know? But so just remember my little phrase, assignment before alignment. First you assign the minor to its sphere of influence, then you determine if it's controlled or aligned. Okay, page 2, 0.3. Negative modifiers never reduce an attack value to less than 1. So I had some militia, and the first time I was attacking with them after CCP had evolved to a major power, I was attacking into mountainous terrain, and I thought, oh, they're lowered from 1 down to 0, but one of the commenters pointed out that rule to me, that no, you always get at least one, an attack value of at least 1. If you start off with an attack value. If you have NA, of course, you can't go up or down. You just can't participate. The maximum CCP can build in one territory per turn is 3, and that includes both recruitment and the builds. So from the CCP National Reference Sheet for recruitment, according to the rules for decentralized military above, that's what applies for the recruitment. And if you look at what it says in the decentralized military above, it says a maximum of 3 units per land zone per turn may be placed. So if you buy 3 units, I had purchased it with the CCP, like say I had purchased 3 militia and I recruited 2 militia and I thought I could put all 5 in that territory. That is illegal. Okay, on page 58, 13.3, Chinese Civil War victory, it says, one side wins if it has eliminated the other faction's units from continental Chinese home country. On the KMT National Reference Sheet, page 1, surrender, it says KMT surrenders when it has no land units left on the map and possesses no land zones. Both of those, well, the first one happened where one side won, the CCP won, because they eliminated KMT from Chinese home country, but KMT still held this territory right here, Hainan, so they did not surrender. So they're defeated, but they don't surrender. They lost the Civil War, but they don't surrender. When Denmark's attacked by Germany, Iceland, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands all align to Great Britain. If an island nation's blockaded, it can no longer lose IPP to convoy raiding. After Panzer J came out and blockaded London, I had attacked various convoy lines, but no, that couldn't do any damage because those convoy lines shut down the moment that the island nation was blockaded. Page 51, air transports, it says, air transports must be the last unit selected as a casualty unless they are participating in an airborne assault. And that's, Panzer J did use them in an airborne assault down in northern Algeria, probably for that reason. Fighting Irish captured an empty Tripolitania and Tripolitania, am I pronouncing that? And then engaged in convoy raiding of the Rome-Tripoli line. I had thought that this was illegal, thinking that once you moved into an empty Tripolitania, that it instantly captured it during the combat movement phase. But no, Fighting Irish had it right. He could choose. He gets to choose what order he wants to do it in. He could attack this convoy line and then afterwards capture the territory and close the line. Okay, so I think I covered everything I wanted to cover about this game. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciated all the comments. Well, almost all the comments. And made some friends. I plan to play another one, and I thanks my opponents so much for all the time and energy they put into this game. Thanks again for watching.